Welcome to my channel Explore with Joyeeta. We all know that there are many strange things found on the earth. Among these, Italy's Leaning Tower of Pisa is a strange one. It is one of the wonders of the world. But do you know, world famous Italian dictator Benito Mussolini hated this tower. Today I will share with you the reason why Mussolini hated the world famous tower. But before that, let us know some facts about the tower. Please watch this video till the end. Now let's move on. The Leaning Tower of Pisa is a medieval structure in Pisa, Italy, that is famous for the settling of its foundations, which by the late 20th century had caused it to lean about 15 feet from the perpendicular. The tower is on the grounds of the city's cathedral complex, which is known as the Square of Miracles. Now let us know why and when was the Leaning Tower of Pisa built. The 12th century was a good one for Pisa. The city's military, commercial and political importance grew as their once small seaport became a regional powerhouse. Like any prosperous medieval Italian city, Pisa began to invest its new wealth in the construction of grand buildings. The Pisans attacked the city of Palermo in the island of Sicily in 1063. The attack was successful and the conquerors returned to Pisa with a great deal of treasure. To show the world just how important the city was, the people of Pisa decided to build a great cathedral complex, the Field of Miracle. The plan included a cathedral, a baptistry, a bell tower, and a cemetery. Construction of the tower began in 1173, but after work had progressed to the second floor in 1178, it was already starting to sink. Shortly after, the Republic of Pisa was busy battling. Some experts now believe that without this pause, which allowed the soil to settle, the tower would have almost certainly toppled over. The leaning was caused by the uneven settling of the building's foundation in the soft ground. Given that the name Pisa comes from the Greek word for marshy land. As construction continued, the builders tried to offset their mistake by adding taller columns and arcs on the south side of the tower. When builders eventually finished the third floor, the tower tipped 0.2 degrees northwest. As efforts were made to correct the tilt and as the structure grew in height, the tower ended up leaning 1 degree to the south. But by the time they reached the fourth story, out of planned 8, they had to make the arcs on the south side a full 2 inches taller than those on the north, and the tower still continued to lean. Unsure of what to do next, the builders halted the construction for almost a century. Giovanni di Simone, the engineer in charge when construction resumed, sought to compensate for the lean by making the new stories slightly taller on the short side. But the extra masonry caused the structure to sink still further. The project was plagued with interruption as engineers sought solution to the leaning problem, but the tower was ultimately topped out in the 14th century. Yet when they resumed their work in 1272, the tower's lean only got worse. The leaning tower had already begun to tilt as the soil was simply not good enough to sustain the pressure placed upon it. This led to the tilt getting even worse as construction on the tower progressed. However, one of the stranger facts about the Leaning Tower of Pisa is that the construction caused the lean to change directions. As more and more stories were added to the tower, the pressure caused the tilt of the tower to change directions. Whereas the structure used to lean north, the pressure placed upon the ground by the building work caused it to lean further and further south. With the addition of a bell chamber in 1372, the construction was finally completed. Twin spiral staircase lined the tower's interior with 294 steps, leading from the ground to the bell chamber. One staircase incorporates for the tower's lean. Over the next 4 centuries, the tower's 7 bells were installed. The largest weighed more than 3,600 kg. By the early 20th century, however, the heavier bells were silenced, as it was believed that their movement could potentially worsen the tower's lean. Each of these large bells represents a musical note from the major scale, though you can still see them if you climb to the top of the tower. They haven't tolled since the 20th century. By now you can probably guess why. Restorers and engineers worried that their movements would make the tower lean even more. Italy's 20th century dictator Benito Mussolini was ashamed of the Leaning Tower of Pisa. He considered its mistaken construction and subsequent lean a national disgrace and an embarrassment to Italy's reputation. So, as with many of the things that he considered shortcoming of Italy, he set out to fix it. Unlike some of his other projects like draining the swamps of Sicily, it didn't go well. The idea was to drill hundreds of holes in the base of the tower and pump in grout and mortar to essentially ballast the entire structure and set it straight. In reality, all this accomplished was to create an even heavier base that made the tower lean even more than it had before. To correct the lean and reduce the risk of collapse, engineers tried a number of tricks, including adding lead counterweights to the base and putting scaffolding on the tower's weakest parts. By the 1990s, though, the tilt had reached 5.5 degrees. Now back to the physics. In terms of angle, the tower now leans at 3.99 degrees. Considering the weight and height of the tower, physicists have said the maximum angle would be 5.44 degrees before the tower falls. The foundations have been strengthened by the injection of cement, grout, and various types of bracing and reinforcement. But in the late 20th century, the structure was still subsiding at the rate of 0.05 inch per year and was in danger of collapse. In 1990, the tower was closed and all the bells silenced as engineers undertook a major straightening project. Earth was siphoned from underneath the foundation, decreasing the lean by 17 inches to 13.5 feet. The work was completed in May 2001 and the structure was reopened to visitors. The tower continued to straighten without further excavation until in May 2008, sensors showed that the motion had finally stopped. At a total improvement of 19 inches, engineers expect the tower to remain stable for at least 200 years. The most famous structurally unsound building in the world is open to visitors now. Seriously though, since its restoration and slight untilting, the structure's integrity is monitored constantly and the building hosts large number of visitors every year. The tower has survived centuries of well-meaning but misguided attempts to right it, including various engineers who added levels and arcs of all different heights, and one overzealous group who dug around the tower to open an underground tower. But someone finally got it right in the 21st century, and as of 2001, the tower was officially declared stable for at least the next 200 years. In 2008, engineers found that the tower is officially no longer moving. The first time in its history that it hasn't been slowly listing to one side. 200 years from now, let's just hope that we have the technology to save the tower for another 200 years. So friends, this was my video today. I hope you all enjoyed it. Subscribe my channel to get more fascinating videos like this. Thank you. Bye bye.